Hi everyone, Paul at ISM. Welcome to part 2 of the Tamiya Ford Escort Cosworth step-by-step build. Before we get going today, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click the little bell notifications to get notified of all our latest videos. Click the like button and leave a comment. I do read and reply to all the comments and appreciate everybody that takes the time to leave a comment on the channel. And of course, if you scroll up in the description, there's a link to a big long list of all the items I use in my videos. So if you see anything, you should be able to find it in there. Right, so I've had an eventful couple of days, which I'll explain in my next bench update. But this was already filmed, all the footage was done. I just need to do a voiceover and face the camera a bit, so here we are. So part 2, we're going to concentrate on all our running gear, assembled, all our interior, getting it all installed in the car. We're going to use some micro balloons on the seats. We're going to make our harnesses and detail up the car a little bit. As we said, it's not a road car, so we are missing some vital components of the interior. So we're going with the track day look. So we've got the roll cage in there, harnesses, fire extinguisher. I need to source a better handbrake because the one in the car snapped. I know I'll have spares, so we'll find one of those for next time when we come back in part 3. But for now, let's get cracking. Let's get on with the build. Right, so straight in with the interior. We're going to cut off all our parts that are relevant, clean them all up, and get them prepped and ready for paint. We're going to start with the seats today, and we're going to try something a little different. So we're going to clean them up as usual. Got a 400 UMP thinny stick. As always, anything you see me using in these videos, you can find in the description down below. There's a big link that takes you to ISM4 and a big long list of all the products shown. So we clean them up. We've now got some Deluxe Materials micro balloons, which is a powder, lightweight powder. We've got some Vallejo Black enamel paint. What we're going to do is we're going to brush the enamel paint over the seat where we want the balloons to stick, and then pour the balloons over the top, and the slightly textured powder will stick to the enamel paint. We can then paint them flat black, and we should have nicely textured seats. Now, I've tried flocking before, and it does look good. I think it can look a little overscale at times, especially on seats. I think it's definitely better suited for carpets. But it does look good on the seats. The only problem is, it is as messy as hell. I've not used flocking in 2 years, and I still find remnants of it in the cave. And at the time I was using it, I was finding it in my 2K clear coats on models. It just got everywhere. So I decided not to use it anymore. And if I was going to carpet something, I'd use embossing powder. But for the seats, I wanted to do this for a while. I thought this is the perfect opportunity. So let's do it. Now, the only thing I wish I had done was put the enamel on a little bit thinner. I put it on a little bit thick in places. And you can see it at the end a touch. So less is more. Take a little bit of time, a little bit slower. So we've got the enamel on. We're going to go tacky for a couple of minutes. And now we've got our bottle of micro balloons. Doesn't matter how much you put on. Make sure every piece of paper, I've got the instructions for the kit decals. And what we're going to do is pour it all over so it sticks into the enamel paint. Then we'll tap the seat to remove the excess. And then we'll let that enamel paint dry properly. And then we can paint over it with some flat black from LP. So we're just making sure we go all the way around and giving it a little bit of a tap. And you can see the kind of texture it's left on the seat. So that white powder is sticking. So this powder, it's used as a filling material for epoxy and glues. It makes it a bit thicker. It can be used with shea glue, I believe, as well, which is something I'll try down the line. You pick the bottle up, the bottle feels empty. But as you can see, it's definitely added a texture to the seat. So we're going to do the other one. As you can see, same process again. Like I said, it doesn't matter how much you put on because what you don't use, you're going to put back in the bottle anyway. And as I just said, once you pick that bottle up, it feels empty. It feels like there's nothing in there. This stuff is that lightweight. It's pretty amazing, to be honest. Now, you don't want to blow this because it'll end up everywhere. But for the purpose we're using, it's going to give us a really good effect. So there we go. That's all the seat covered. Now we're going to use this. And fold it up gently. You don't want to flick it or fling it everywhere. And then we're going to tap the rest of it in. Tap, tap, tap. And there we go. Fairly easy to do. As you can see where the paint's starting to dry. And we've got that nice white textured look to the seat. Like I say, it's a little bit thick in place. You can see it at the back of the seat. So, lesson learnt this time. We know for next time. Now, we've got some blurry. There we go. Not so blurry now. Tamiya LP3 flat black. And we're going to thin this with the normal lacquer thinner. We don't want a gloss. So anything non-glossy, use the non-retarder. And this is the seat after a couple of coats of the flat black. And that looks absolutely amazing. If I don't say so myself, it looks very, very good. Now, I had the opportunity to carbon the back of the seats. And I thought, no, I don't want to on this. It's going to look a bit strange in that interior if I do like the yellow composite, which a lot of these cars came with. So I decided to just leave it black. So that's what we've done. So onto the interior, we've got the door cards. We've got a little bracket that's on the door card of the rally car, which has the rally computer on it. So we're cutting that off, sanding it square. We've got a ruler on our Tamiya P-scriber. I'm just going to push forward to get the line going. I always find it's easy to go forward, then back. No real pressure. Just let it cut. As you can see, there we go. There's our panel line back in. Nicely done. We got all that polished up and cleaned up and ready to go. And do exactly the same with all the parts you can see there on the bench. So suspension. Now these come with a little locator ejector pin mark, I guess it is, right in the middle of the spring. It's very, very common. So the way to get rid of this is to cut gently either side with a knife and remove the excess material. Like so. Then we're going to grab one of our Suji Burrito files, which is the triangular one. These files are absolutely phenomenal on plastic. One of my favourite tools. And one of the little Suji Burrito needle files as well. This is the round one, just to get right in that gap. Then we're coming with some Tamiya Extra Thin. We're going to clean the dust off first. There we go. Well done, Paul. Get your toothbrush. There we are. So we're going to put some Tamiya Extra Thin in there. So let it sit for a second or two. This is my hotter mix of Tamiya Extra Thin with a bit of plastic weld in there. And then once we're happy, we're going to run it all over where the spring is simulated. And then we'll get rid of that mark we just got rid of. And I'll get rid of any seam line in there too. So we've done that to every spring. And we're going around systematically cleaning up every single part. And then once it's cleaned, give it a buff. We just get rid of the seam lines and all the parts. And then once they're done, we need to mount all the parts for primer. So some we drill. I've got my little battery powered drill, which sadly you can't get anymore. So a cocktail stick in there. Some parts already have a hole in, so we can utilise that with a cocktail stick. Other parts we can use white tack to stick those on as well in an area that's not going to be painted. And then lastly, we can use say glue, carefully applied on the cocktail stick, glued to the locator point of the part. And again, there you go. Once you got it glued on, be careful you don't knock it off. Into the spray booth, we've got our UMP black primer. We've got our UMP Apex, which is set at 30 psi. This is the 0.35 needle set. And we're going to give every single part a couple of coats of the primer, ensuring we get every recess, every angle, every side, up and down, all evenly covered. Again, onto bigger parts. Just take your time. Don't try and get it all in one coat. It's not worth doing. A couple of coats is more than adequate. And just put it down. By the time you got around all the parts and come back, the first part you primed is dry. And you can crack on. It's the simplest way of doing it, and it will get you the best possible finish as well. So, we've got LP5. This is my decanted and pre-thinned. I keep it in a larger 18mm pot. And it's pre-thinned about 60%. And we're just going to give everything 2 or 3 coats. It won't likely be 2 on here. Like I say, we're not trying to hose it on. We're just getting a nice even coat to begin with. And go on slightly heavy for the second coat. We've got AK Extreme Steel now for the brake discs. So they're all going to be painted up along with the exhaust and what have you. And then we'll detail paint our calipers later on. So again, a couple of coats of that is perfect. Now I've got matte aluminium, which we're going to use on the engine and a few other components. And again, a couple of coats. First one is an all over even coat just to make sure everywhere has been covered. We're not hosing it on again. All this stuff is quite forgiving. But I was fine. Saves wasting loads of paint. Quick and easy. And once you come back, it's almost dry for the second coat like this. We're a bit more liberal this time. As you can see, it's my full speed spraying that I normally spray it when I'm not slowed down for you guys. No mucking around there. Now, our door cards, these have been drying overnight. So we come back the next day, and I thought the best way to liven this up a touch is to give it a wash. So we've got Tamiya grey panel liner, and we're just going to go around and get every recessed panel liner fill. We'll give our fans a go as well. We'll let this dry and then remove all the excess wash when we're done. Dashboard the same as well. We've got some decals to go on here later, but we'll get the wash on first. Filmed over several days. There's probably about 4 or 5 days worth of footage here. I think we had about 4 hours worth of footage to get all this. LP7 now from Tamiya. We're going to paint in our springs. So we sprayed the top of the springs in the matte aluminium. We did that to make it easier to paint the red, and then it leaves the silver for the top and bottom of the shock absorber, and then we'll brush paint the black in at the bottom with some Vallejo Model Air. So 3 coats altogether brushed on with this. You could mask it if you wanted, but it's more fiddly than it's worth. It's a lot easier to actually brush paint it, to be honest. Now, the Imperial Blue we used on the bodywork, I'm putting a little bit on one of our paint cups, and we're going to brush paint our calipers. So we're painting onto enamel, so there's no real problem with reaction. If you're painting onto other lacquer, you'll find that it pulls the lacquer paint off or burns through it. So going over the enamel is a lot safer, but the best way of doing this is to load your brush up and don't work the paint too much. Once it dries, it'll fully level out. It is going to dry in like a semi-matte finish though. So if you do want it to be shinier, you'll have to clear coat it yourself. Now, I normally use a Mr. Hobby metal black colour for this, but I've actually ran out. And it's an aqueous colour, which I'm not using anymore. So I thought we'll try LP, I think it's 41. I think it's the metallic black. Metallic grey it is. And I thought, we'll see what this looks like. And I was pleasantly surprised at just how well the lacquer brush painted. It went on really easily. I had no issues at all. Again, we're over enamel paint with a lacquer. But it brushed well. It dried ultra fast. And I could go over it again, no problem at all. As you can see, our calipers are now steel. Our discs are now steel. Our calipers are blue, same colour as the car. I'm just going to paint the centre of the hub with that metallic grey from Tamiya. It's an LP colour. I think it's 41. Off the top of my head, no, it's not 41. It must be 61. There we go. Not got the paint to hand. I'm looking for the gaps in the paint rack. So we've got some Vallejo Black now. This is a Vallejo model colour. It's literally the only bottle of this stuff I have. Painting up all our black components with it. Thinned with a little bit of water. Brush paints really well. Just don't work it too much. Go over as little as possible. And here we are now removing our excess grey wash. So a little bit of odourless mineral spirits on a cotton bud, and we're just lightly going around. We don't want to remove it all. And then once we're happy with that, we'll go over with a clean piece of tissue, just wipe off any excess. And there we go. Adds a little bit of interest to the side panels. You could mask them off and paint them different colours of black or dry brush them. But for me, on a part that's barely visible, this is more than adequate to do. And then we're going around and removing all our excess grey wash we've applied to various components before. So this is our gear stick. This is our dashboard. So we're still going to detail paint and add some decals here and there. But we'll get those in a little bit. And then after the calipers and the disc are fully dry overnight, we'll hit this with a black Tamiya panel line wash. Now again, the panel line washes are supposedly enamel. I think they are as well. Well, they must be. So we're on enamel here, so you need to make sure that it is fully dry. But in all the years I've been doing it, I've never had a reaction. Our front radiator / intercooler. We'll give this a black wash as well to add some detail. It can't really be seen anyway. What we'll do as a matter of course. And then our rear differential, we'll add a wash to as well. Just to help pick out the detail and just make it look a bit more visually interesting as such. Our freshly painted springs have now dried. They've dried overnight. Very, very quick, the lacquer paint. So they've been given a wash. We've got some of the Winsor Newton Sans Odor odorless mineral spirits. And now we're going to remove our wash from our discs. So just having a look around, very happy how they look. The blue looks pretty good considering it was brush painted on. It's leveled out really well. If with the thought on, I would have had a little bit of retarder in it, like I did with the Tamiya retarder. But it seemed to work really well. We'll try that at a future date. And as you can see, we're going lightly around with a cotton bud, not applying loads of pressure because it will eventually wear through the paint. Not burn through chemically, but literally wear the paint off. And as you can see, once we've wiped it off, there's a nice bit of detail. And now we can start assembling all our components. So we've got the radiator fans on the front. They're say glued in place. And then pay attention to your instructions. Make sure you have everything orientated the right way. Pop some CA glue in. This is the Loctite Perfect pen. So we need a bit at the back and 2 pieces at the front. And then paying attention to our instructions, which I'm referring to constantly. Oh, let's get in for a closer look. My God, that was some grey hair. And there we go. 3 locating points, 2 at the front. Just gently click over. Make sure you don't knock anything. There we go. Let's put our fans back where they should be. Get there eventually. There we go. Make sure they're central and make sure we're all clicked in. Precision pen, perfect pen. I keep calling it precision. I think it should be called precision pen, to be honest. Is a very handy say applicator for putting these parts in because you haven't got anything on your bench. You can apply it exactly where you need it. It stays. It doesn't glue instantly, so you can move things around. As you've just seen, the radiator we glued on was still moving about a little bit. It's not the thickest of glues, but it does stay movable for a while, which is really handy. So again, a couple of locating points on the rear differential and drive shaft. And as you can see, we've got our rear shock absorbers and springs. I painted the shocks yellow for just a little bit of visual interest. And we're going to try and glue them in place. So we've added a dab of CA glue to the top. We'll glue that on the body. And like I say, you get a bit of time with the CA glue, so it's quite handy. So we'll dab a little bit in there, then grab it. Make sure it's turned the right way. We don't want any flaws. We want the good side to be visible. And then we'll get that subframe on the top. So get all the locator points on. Then gently grab your shocks. Ease them in place. Again, the CA glue located in place there, which you're going to just wipe off the excess. If you're quick, it doesn't damage your paint. And just be aware where you put that cotton bud then, because I put mine on the bench and it's stuck to the bench. And there we go. They're all lined up, looking pretty good. Calipers. Now we're just making sure these are all orientated the correct way. So I'm just making sure which are the front and which are the back. And once I'm happy, we'll put our polycaps in. Make sure they're fully home. Then add some CA glue. Now it's worthwhile adding quite a bit here. It looks a bit overkill. But on these ones that don't actually have anything to physically hold it in, I find it's worth adding a little bit more to get plenty of purchase on the part. Because a lot of these, they normally have a locator point. There is a locator point, but you're literally resting it to it, not through it or on it. So add a touch more, and you'll know you're good. So there's our steering arm on, all the front subframes on and connected. Calipers and discs and springs are looking good, so happy days with that. Now, onto our seatbelts. Now, I've got a full video showing how to do these. It's in the Subaru Techniques guide. Hopefully I'll remember to put a link in the description down below. But basically, we've got a Studio 27 photo set. The link for this can be found in the description of this video, so please don't ask for the part number. It is listed there. We're going to cut off all our components we need. We've then got some 3mm and 2mm blue ribbon, and we're going to assemble our belts. And like I say, I have a full guide on how to do this in the Subaru Techniques video. So I'm not going to show the whole thing here because it would be like a 20-minute video. So we're just going to assemble some of it. I'm going to show it roughly how it's done. And then we'll get them all on and see what they look like on those nicely textured seats. So we've got a bending machine here at the minute. This is a small tool shop one. And these are the central parts to the harness. So it's going to carefully bend these 90 degrees. There we go. So we're going to feed our ribbon through. So we're going to feed 2 parts through the top and 1 through the bottom. So we're going to feed this through, cut it square, and then tape it over on itself. So a little bit of double-sided tape now. Again, like I say, there's a full guide in Subaru Techniques video, so you can go watch the whole thing assembled. It's all sped up, so you can watch it from start to finish. But I just thought I'd show the very basic part of assembling one part, and then the rest of it is pretty kind of self-explanatory. So we've got 2 full sets of belts to make. It is a bit laborious and a bit boring, but stick some music on or have a chat with friends when you're online like I've been doing in the Hangout, and time will soon fly by. So again, a little bit more double tape on this part. So we've got the bottom part through. So one part has to come through and then fold through and back through again. So it's a bit hard to explain, but once you've done it a couple of times, it becomes pretty easy. But you do need some good, fine motor skills to do this. A good pair of tweezers always helps, I find. And there we go. So now the lower components of the harness, because on the real one, they kind of taper down to a smaller buckle. On this, using some 2mm ribbon, applied in the same way, folded over, and stuck down in place. And then we're going to cut that short, and then taper the ends of the belt and stick those on. And there we go, there's the whole belt all assembled, looking really good. Like I say, 3rd time I've said it, but if you want to see a full assembly, go to the Subaru Techniques guide. I'll put it in the description down below, and you can watch it start to finish. Now, we've got some decals to apply. And rather than going down the route of decal solutions, I have a handy little tip that's worked for quite some time. And I find it works really well. So we've got a couple of Say belt decals for the top of the belts. And we've got our Sparco decal for the top of the seat. Now what we've got here is a brush and some Mr. Hobby leveling thinner. What we're going to do is apply this to the decal, and it will literally instantly melt it. Almost instantly. It takes a couple of seconds. You don't want that to happen at all. But it did, and we got it back on luckily. And what this will do, this will literally melt that decal into the fabric of the seat and look like it's sewn into the seat. And with the Sparco one at the top, it will melt it into the texture of the seat and make it look like, again, like it's sewn into the seat. So it's a very handy tip. Now, what you want to do is kind of load the brush up with the leveling thinner. Try not to have to touch it again. If you do, be very gentle because it will split it because it literally melts the decal. Just make sure all the corners are fully down. You've got everywhere covered. So we're being gentle, and then just leave that be. And when you come back to it in 5 or 10 minutes, as you can see, it's started to settle down nicely now. But when you come back in 5 to 10 minutes, as you can see, it's literally melted that decal into the texture of the seatbelt. And the Sparco one just looks like it's been molded into that seat when it was made. And you see with the texture of those belts and the texture of the seat, this is a very, very nice effect. And I'm very happy with that. So there's both seats done and in place. Now you need to leave the excess ribbon at the back because that's going to be wrapped around the roll cage. But the seats are looking good. Very happy with those. Now the roll cage has got some black parts that need detail painting. The actual sponge padding that's on the side. So we're just going to brush paint these. You could mask and spray them if you wanted, but some careful paint work, not a problem at all. We've got one of the Tamiya flat brushes here. Just give it a careful paint. So with the Vallejo model colour, we've added a couple of drops of water. I find with thinners, if you want to dry faster, add a thinner, like UMP or whatever. It dries a lot faster. The water, I think, keeps the brush marks out of it, so that's my preferred thinner for it. Added some CA glue now to get our roll cage in place. So we're just getting all our corners in place. As you can see, we pulled our ribbon out the back. And then we're going to use some double-sided tape to tape all 4 components of this in place. It's a bit tricky. You can use CA glue, but I find it soaks through the belts. And then once you've got all the harnesses in, we can get our dashboard in place. We've got all the decals on the dash now as well. Fire extinguishers in, so on and so forth. Now our handbrake's in, but it did actually break, so I just placed it in for now, and we're going to replace that with a different handbrake later. So just careful manipulation, and there we go. There's all our interior in place. Looks very good. The fuel tank's in the back as well. Very happy with that. Now, some Hobby Design brake logos. We're going to add some Brembo brake emblems to the calipers now. I think we're going to go, there's a multitude of colours in here. I think we're going to go with white because I think it's going to stand out the most. So we've got Brembo in there, as you can see, AP Racing. And then in the other one, we've got more Brembo, I think. Let's have a look. Yeah, we've got more Brembo, Endless, Pro Drive. So plenty of choice there, but we're going to go with just white Brembos. So applied in the water. Slide it in place. Just adds a little bit more visual interest. You can't really see them through the wheels, sadly. And I know we've gone with the Oz rims, but there are other wheels I could put on this. And I'm going to have a little look through and just see what else I've got. We can switch and change, get a few different pictures. But if we do that, then we can see the calipers. So it'll look good. So get the decal in place, remove any excess water from underneath as usual. And then we're going to hit this with the Strong solution from Ultimate, from myself and Lee. Again, you get this from our website. It's all linked in the description down below. And as always, anything you can see me using is linked in the description. Go over there and there's a link to it. So they've all now dried in place. Whenever you put anything on there, like tyre decals or caliper decals, it's very easy to accidentally remove them when you're working on the rest of the model. So be careful when you're handling it. Run your hand around everywhere. So we've got some CA glue in now for the door cards. I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of kicker. So instantly dry it. Makes life a little easier. So we've got both sides on. And now we've got the back on. And there we go. This is complete. Now, like I say, there is some plates to go underneath. I think we may put them on. But there's our interior done. Not too bad at all. Very happy with those seats. The micro balloons work absolutely fantastic. They look really well. Very happy with those. So we need to switch out that handbrake. And get a little bit more, rid of more of that grey wash. There's a little bit too much on some of those components. So we'll get to those when we can. So we've assembled our wheels now. Just coming in for a bit of a closer look at these seats. And there we go. Now, we've got the wheels on. The tyres, I'm thinking of changing. But I might try and get some low-profile ones. Because I think these are a little bit too tall. But for the most part, it's all looking well. Like I say, we need a little bit of excess wash to get off. You see it around the steering wheel and on the dashboard and what have you. But all the decals are on. A little bit blurry. The camera's not the happiest this close-up. But the wheels look good. Sadly, we can't see any of our disc, which is why I was talking about maybe changing the wheels. Not permanently, just for some pictures and what have you. But very, very happy how it's looking. We've got a scratch build our exhaust, which should be fun. And I also test fitted the body just to see how we're looking. And it looks really good. Very happy with this so far. That blue is absolutely beautiful. Once we get that polished up, it's going to look phenomenal. And the wheels really do suit it. Like I say, we may choose some different ones. We'll see. So there we go. That's where we're at today. So as you can see, we're all assembled. All our wheels are on. Tier is in. Running gear's all done. I've got a few little bits I'm going to tweak. Like I say, we're going to change the handbrake out. We're going to find probably a few bits of excess wash to remove in the coming days. Because it does take a while to dry. It is well and truly dry. It's not been touched for 3 days. So I'll go around before we get the body on, just have a final look, make sure there's no excess wash. There are some plates to go underneath. I'm not sure if I want to put them on. I'll decide on that at the time. There's 2 or 3 of them at least, and we've got to scratch build the exhaust, which it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. So we'll deal with that over the coming days. So there we go. So thanks everyone that's watched, everyone that leaves comments, it's always appreciated. Thanks for all the support and all the kind messages on Facebook yesterday. Thank you all. Like I said, I'm going to do a bench update next, and I'm going to explain a few things. Yes, keep an eye out for that, and I'll explain a little bit more in depth about what's gone on. So yeah, as always, check out the Tesla Scale Model Facebook page and forum. Live the bench page for the Off Air Hangout group. The live the bench page for the live show. The Off Air Hangout group for the Off Air Hangouts. umpretail.com, where you can see most of the products I've used in this video today. and check out my Paul ISM Facebook page, where all my personal modelling work is shared. And as always, leave a comment, got any questions, ask down below, give the video a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, sub to the channel as well, and I appreciate everyone that subs, leaves a comment, leaves a thumbs up. The support is much appreciated, and we've got more builds in the pipeline with some nice new paints on the way, which I'll explain hopefully in my next bench update. As soon as they arrive, I'll do a bench update probably. And we've got some good builds lined up for the future, so stay tuned. So thanks for watching today. I'll catch you all next time. Take care. Bye bye.